I found my own adoptive father. The day I almost died of hunger, wandering the streets, I sought out a father for myself, a man named Ming. That guy with his bright blonde hair pointed angrily at me and yelled, "I'm only 18. Do I look like your dad?" I burst into tears, snot and tears streaming down my face, but I stubbornly refused to utter a single word. Ming, at a loss, had no choice but to take me home. From then on, the entire neighborhood knew that the notorious thug had adopted a little girl. Until the fateful day he met the female lead, Fiona. In a torrential downpour, Fiona twirled and danced, desperately trying to catch the male lead's attention. He should have pitied her, run over and offered his umbrella. But Ming scooped me up and lectured. "Look closely, kid. People like that are crazy. If you ever dare to imitate her, I'll spank you raw." I nodded obediently, snuggling into his arms. My plan to save the tragic second male lead had succeeded. I had transmigrated into a cheap romance novel, and the system had tasked me with saving the devoted second male lead, the one always stuck in unrequited love. The original story described him as handsome, refined, every gesture exuding the romance of a mature man. I stared at the punk with garish blonde hair and a rusty iron chain around his neck, taking a deep breath. Something wasn't quite right here. While I hesitated, he grew impatient. "Whose kid are you? Why are you blocking my way, huh?" I flinched. It had been a week since I transmigrated, and I hadn't had a single full meal. This was a slum, every house was dirt poor, and as a girl, I was lucky to even beg for half a steamed bun. My stomach growled with hunger, and the more I thought about it, the more wronged I felt. I bit my lip and suddenly burst into desperate sobs. Ming stood frozen. "Hey, I didn't even scold you, why are you crying?" Seeing the situation was going south, he turned and walked away. I quickly wiped my tears and scurried after him like a lost duckling. Ming turned left. I immediately stuck to his left. He pretended to examine a peeling wall. I stood by his leg, looking up piteously. Ming gritted his teeth, squatted down, his iron chain clinking. "Tell me, kid, what do you want?" I rubbed my empty stomach. "I'm hungry." He rummaged through his pockets for a while, then painfully pulled out his wallet and bought me a sausage. After eating, I continued to stare at him expectantly. "You're done eating, why are you still following me around? I'm warning you, kid, keep following and you'll get it." Ming raised his fist threateningly, then turned and walked away. Seeing he truly wasn't going to turn back, I panicked and screamed, "Dad!" Ming almost tripped. I immediately ran after him, clinging to him. "Dad, don't abandon me." My urgent voice made him walk faster. "I don't eat much, really. Please, Dad, don't leave me behind." I struggled to keep up. Whispers erupted from the surrounding crowd. Ming's face turned ashen. He growled, "No, I am not this kid's father." He was so furious he pointed at his own face. "I'm only 18. Immediately, everyone's gazes shifted from suspicion to contempt. Ming pulled my hand, not looking back, as if he would never return to this area again. I clutched his bony, slender hand tightly, not daring to let go. Indeed, finding Ming wasn't easy for me. That damn system only gave me a photo and demanded I change his destiny. I don't know where the error was, but when I arrived, I had turned into a 3-year-old child. Even my consciousness was affected by this identity. I had to dodge human traffickers while asking house to house to find Ming. I never expected to finally find him, but his image was completely different from the story. At this point, I knew absolutely nothing about this world. After so much fear, I'd rather die than let go of his hand. "Go easy, kid, how are you so strong?" Ming frowned, wiggling his fingers. Only then did I notice his hand, clutched so tightly by me that it was red, his knuckles white. I awkwardly lowered my head, thought for a moment, then hugged his leg tightly. "Hey, how am I supposed to walk like this? Maybe I'll just make her angry." Ming now looked utterly exhausted. He sighed and picked me up, cradling me in his arms. He mumbled, "Looks like this kid is really clingy." I looked at his handsome face, magnified before my eyes, my nose stung, and tears welled up again. 2 trails of tears streamed down my dirty face, forming clear streaks looking quite comical. Ming frowned, awkwardly wiping them away with his finger. "Don't cry anymore. We're home now. If you really have nowhere to go later, just stay here with me." I opened my eyes wide in surprise and immediately stopped crying. Ming took me to his small house. The old iron gate creaked open. As soon as we stepped inside, I saw both sides piled high with salvaged items from the dump. A TV with a broken screen, a phone with a cracked display, discarded appliances. Taking up a large part of the room was a giant study desk, covered with all sorts of electronic components and complex blueprints that I couldn't understand. According to the novel, Chin Ming would experience a significant turning point at age 20. By 23, he would become a prominent figure in the tech world, amassing enormous wealth. Because he had endured hardships, he would later generously help the female lead, Fiona, funding her education and guiding her every step of the way. However, Fiona was only interested in romance, completely neglecting her studies. She used Chin Ming's money to take dance lessons, learn instruments, and even get breast augmentation surgery, all just to catch the male lead's attention. Despite being ridiculed and scorned, she willingly continued. Chin Ming, seeing this, couldn't help but feel heartbroken. He advised her several times, only to be cursed at by her. Love is selfish. No matter what you do for me, I won't love you. When she finally got together with the male lead, she recounted this story to him as a joke. Unexpectedly, the male lead became jealous, bribed people around Chin Ming, ultimately leading to his bankruptcy and expulsion from the city. I watched Chin Ming cleaning the room, secretly thinking, such a good person like him. I wish he had never met Fiona. Finally, Chin Ming finished tidying his dog's nest-like bed. He pulled out a worn-out set of clothes from a pile and handed them to me, saying, "I've already prepared the water, go take a bath yourself. And just so you know, I don't have time to look after you. Stay if you want or leave." I nodded repeatedly. "I'm a very good girl. I'll eat by myself, sleep by myself, and I won't bother you, uncle." Chin Ming smiled faintly and gestured for me to go bathe. At 3 years old, my body was as thin as a stick. Ever since I gained consciousness, I had lived in an orphanage. The other children constantly bullied me. I never ate enough, slept well, and my health was always poor. Whenever someone came to adopt, they always assumed I was sick and chose the healthier, plump children instead. I tried my best to scrub my tiny arms, wash my face thoroughly, then put on the clothes Chin Ming gave me. When I returned to the room, Chin Ming turned to look at me and said, "Oh, this little kid actually looks quite pretty." He rummaged in a drawer and pulled out 2 hair ties. "Come here, I'll braid your hair." I happily ran over. Soon, 2 lopsided braids were done. I grimaced in the mirror. Too ugly. Chin Ming cleared his throat softly, discreetly removing the hair ties. "It's late. Tying your hair like this won't be comfortable for sleeping." Immediately, I climbed onto the bed, closed my eyes, and fell fast asleep. As long as I was good, he surely wouldn't have the heart to chase me away. I don't know how long I dozed off for, but I frowned slightly and stealthily opened my eyes, looking around. In the dim light, I saw Chin Ming standing in front of the mirror, braiding his own hair. He mumbled curses as he worked, finally finishing after a long struggle. Unable to hold it in, I let out a small giggle. Chin Ming, startled, quickly threw the hair tie away as if it were a hot coal, and pretended to be drawing something as if nothing had happened. I pressed my lips together, suppressing my giggles, then turned over and slept soundly. Chin Ming was often absent from home, spending most of his day scavenging for usable items. The first time I secretly followed him, he didn't notice at all. Only when he returned home and couldn't find me did he truly panic. By the time I managed to run back, his eyes were already red-rimmed. Though he tried to act calm, his voice was gruff. "If you don't like it here, just leave already." I timidly approached, grabbing his hand. "Dad, did I do something wrong?" Chin Ming yanked his hand away from mine. "Don't call me Dad, don't talk about that. Where did you go today?" I sniffled. "I followed you outside, I'm scared to be home alone." Thinking of this, a wave of self-pity overwhelmed me, choking me up. In this world, I only had Chin Ming. I was afraid that one day, he would find me troublesome and abandon me, never to return. So, wherever he went, I had to follow. Chin Ming stood dumbfounded. He bent down to look at my bare feet, dirty with dust and gravel. His lips moved, but he couldn't utter a word. Finally, he silently went to fetch water for me to wash up. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, he carried me out of the house. He bought me a cheap pair of slippers, then hooked a plastic bag onto me. Any usable item he found, he put into my bag. Walking from the west end to the east end of the alley, he held my hand. Seeing that I seemed tired, he grimaced and reluctantly picked me up. For lunch, we shared a single steamed bun. Chin Ming gave most of it to me, while he only drank water by the ditch. Seeing me eat heartily, he mumbled, "You little debtor." I squinted my eyes in a smile, eating every last crumb of the bun. Delicious. That day, Chin Ming needed to cross the road to go to the scrapyard. Besides making things, he also sold scrap metal for extra income. "Sit still here. Don't follow anyone who calls you. If you get lost, don't even bother looking for me, got it?" I nodded vigorously and sat down by the roadside. Chinming pinched my cheek and walked away. I watched his back disappear, then sat watching the ants diligently carrying their prey. Not long after, a shadow fell over me, blocking the sunlight. Looking up, I saw a group of plump, well-dressed kids blocking my way. It was obvious they came from wealthy families. When they saw me looking, one of them pointed and scoffed. "You're that trash-picking kid that Thug Chin adopted, aren't you? Heard he dropped out, no future at all. Come play with us, I'll give you 2 coins every time." I angrily stood up. "He's not a thug. He is *a thug. I'm only being nice to you because you're pretty." I glanced towards the scrapyard, still no sign of Chinming. Not wanting trouble, I started to walk away. But the chubby boy wouldn't let it go. He grabbed my hair and yanked hard. "Hey, don't go, we came to play with you. Why are you so stubborn? My mom says stubborn girls never get married." The whole group cheered, crowding around me, pulling my hair. They pulled and chanted mockingly, "No husband, no husband," crying and laughing, puppy peeing the bed. I was in excruciating pain, tears streaming down my face like rain. Memories of being bullied at the orphanage flooded back. I bit my lip tightly and burst into heart-wrenching sobs. Suddenly, a loud, angry shout echoed from afar. "Stop!" A strong gust of wind swept through. I opened my tear-filled eyes to see the children sprawled on the ground, pushed over. Chinming stood firm, shielding me like an unyielding wall. I clutched his shirt tighter, crying even harder. The chubby boy, hurt from the fall, also started wailing. Immediately, several adults rushed over, their voices filled with anger. "Who are you to hit children?" Chinming gently smoothed my messy, pulled hair, his gaze turning icy cold as he looked at the adults. "I am this child's father." That day, everything descended into chaos. The adults fought a fierce brawl. Chinming took quite a few blows. I was worried to the point of tears. When I saw Chinming about to be hit, I didn't think twice. I rushed forward to shield him. "Don't hit him, please don't hit him." Chinming hugged me tightly, immediately regaining his composure. But how could one man fight off 4 or 5? I watched with my own eyes as a large man swung his fist towards Chinming's head. Without hesitation, I threw myself in front of him to block the blow. Thud! A sound echoed. Before my eyes, everything went white, my vision swam. Amidst Chinming's panicked cries, I closed my eyes and passed out. It seemed I had experienced a long, drawn-out dream. In that dream, I saw myself at age 10, still lonely, never adopted, and eventually kicked out of the orphanage. The director angrily scolded, "Useless, raising you all these years was a waste of effort." She spat towards me and slammed the orphanage door shut. My life of wandering began then. I had to scavenge for scraps, sleep under bridges, and find ways to escape human traffickers. Finally, at 12, I was adopted by a couple. They fed me well and taught me how to read and write. Just when I thought I finally had a real home, one evening, they locked me in a room with their intellectually disabled son. The man, drooling and giggling innocently, crawled onto the bed, calling out for his wife. Utterly terrified, I realized I had just escaped the wolf's den only to fall into the tiger's mouth. I used a bottle to hit him over the head, then fled in the dead of night. My nomadic days resumed. One day, I accidentally read a romance novel titled Love for a Lifetime ***. The more I read, the stranger it seemed. The perspectives within it were utterly bizarre. What had Chinming done wrong? When he was poor, he lived positively, pursuing his dreams. When he became rich, he helped the female lead, giving back to society. He clearly always did good deeds, yet he was labeled as a pathetic, lovesick second male lead. That day, my spirits were low, and coupled with my already weak body, I had a traffic accident. Now, looking back, perhaps it was because I couldn't accept such an injustice that I was able to appear here in the form of a 3-year-old child. At 3 years old, I had once been chosen, but then abandoned. This time, I gambled that Chinming would soften his heart. I absolutely had to find someone who would genuinely love me as family. I subtly frowned, slowly opening my eyes. While everything was still blurry, a shock of bright blonde hair suddenly appeared before me, accompanied by Chinming's worried voice. "You're awake. Does your head still hurt?" My consciousness still floated between 2 different worlds. The only thing I registered was that the person standing before me was Chinming. He was the one who suffered such injustice, filling my heart with both anger and pity. The man I called Dad in my heart, but who always acted stubborn on the outside, I used my tiny hand to grasp his. "Dad, you're a good person, it's not your fault." I looked up at him, smiling brightly. "Thank you, Dad, for taking me home." Chin Ming was silent, only stroking my head firmly. His eyes were as deep as the vast ocean, containing emotions I couldn't comprehend. It felt as if I had just experienced a very long sleep. I rubbed my eyes, stirred slightly, and suddenly my hand touched the mattress beneath me. I didn't know if I was hallucinating, but this bed was strangely soft, and the blanket carried a faint scent of fabric softener. Dad must have bought new laundry detergent asterisk, I thought. I groggily opened my eyes and then realized I was in a completely unfamiliar room. Beneath me was a pink princess bed, surrounded by all the colors little girls usually loved. Where is this? Just then the bedroom door gently opened. A woman with a kind, benevolent face appeared. Oh, my dear, you're awake? She carefully wiped her hands, then cautiously stepped into the room, gently stroking the bandage on my forehead. Does it still hurt? Are you hungry? Auntie made millet porridge with braised chicken drumsticks. It smells so good. Do you want to eat some? I stared at the unfamiliar woman, still bewildered. Dad, where's my dad? Her expression briefly faltered, but she quickly sat down by the bed, affectionately pulling me into her arms. Isn't it good here, child? Auntie has a soft bed, rice, and meat. When you're better, Auntie will even send you to school. I flinched, a surge of loneliness and self-pity overwhelming me, making me burst into sobs. Where's my dad? Where's Chin Ming? Doesn't Dad want me anymore? Does Dad hate that I'm troublesome, so he gave me away? I cried until my voice was choked, my head spinning even more. No, it's not like that at all, the woman hastily explained. Here's what happened. I'm the person your dad, Chin Ming, found to adopt you. Don't worry, it's not that he doesn't want you. He loves you very much, that's why he wants to secure your future and sent you to stay with me. She held my hand, smiling brightly. Auntie also has an uncle who is a teacher and an older brother who is 5 years older than you. Everyone is very kind. Will you be our daughter? Auntie will love you very much, and so will my whole family. I just listened in silence, like an inanimate puppet. Chin Ming must have been worried that I was severely injured and needed hospital treatment, which made him panic. Perhaps he thought he wasn't capable enough to care for me, so he took advantage of my unconscious state to find an adoptive family. I believed this was a decent family. Chin Ming must have observed them very carefully before making this decision. But the only thing I longed for was Chin Ming to be my dad. Even if steamed buns weren't expensive and cheap slippers were comfortable, I only needed Chin Ming. The two unfamiliar women bore the surname Liu. The older one told me I could call her Auntie Liu. Soon after, Uncle Liu and their 8-year-old son also came home. Seeing that I was awake, everyone gathered around curiously, asking after me with genuine concern. I clearly felt their sincere care. This kind of life had once been my biggest dream. During dinner, Auntie Liu put a chicken drumstick on my plate. The child is too thin, eat more meat. My 8-year-old older brother put vegetables in my bowl, acting like an adult. You just got discharged, so more vegetables are better for your health. Uncle Liu just smiled, shaking his head. I think our little princess would prefer my stewed soup. Here, the bone soup has been simmered for a long time. The meat is tender and savory. Try it, won't you? No one had ever treated me so kindly. I quietly drank the soup, tears silently streaming down my face. They really were so good. I had the fullest, warmest meal in both of my lives. That night, when everyone in the house was fast asleep, I opened my eyes wide in the dark, secretly changing back into the old, torn clothes I had arrived in. Taking advantage of the quiet late night, I quietly opened the large gate of the Liu family's house. Everything here was too good. I felt I didn't appreciate it, or wasn't meant to enjoy it. This was an unfamiliar city, completely different from the slum where Chin Ming lived. I wandered everywhere. When I was too hungry, I shamelessly begged for water or scavenged for discarded breadcrumbs. I remembered the way to Chin Ming's place very clearly. After asking around, from one person to another, I finally learned it was about 5 or 6 kilometers away. I was overjoyed, running as fast as I could, my heart fluttering with anticipation of seeing Chin Ming again. But for a 3-year-old child, a few kilometers was a very long journey. As night fell, I curled up under a bridge to sleep, trying to regain strength for the next day's trek. Amidst my fitful sleep, a sudden dog bark echoed. Fear gripped me, jolting me awake. I saw large dogs with glowing green eyes sniffing their way towards me from a nearby field. Panicked, I scrambled up and ran for my life, not daring to turn back even when my slippers fell off. Fortunately, as dawn broke, I escaped the ferocious dogs and found my way back to where I once lived. I followed the familiar path Chin Ming had led me on before. Finally, around a bend, I saw that old house again. "Dad!" Shaking off all my exhaustion, I rushed to knock on the door. "Dad!" Just as I managed to call out, before I could say another word, the iron gate suddenly swung open. Chin Ming, looking haggard, appeared before me as if he had been standing behind that gate for days. He looked like he hadn't slept for nights. His face pale, eyes bloodshot, his once neat blonde hair now a tangled mess. Chin Ming rubbed his eyes repeatedly as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Just as he was about to smile, his expression suddenly changed. He roared, "Why did you come back here? I don't need you anymore. What are you doing back?" He was about to slam the door shut. "Go back to your old place. I can't afford to raise you." Too panicked, I quickly put my hand out to block the door, almost getting it caught. Chin Ming's face went white with alarm. He quickly opened the door, grabbing my hand to examine it. I bit my lip tightly. From the feeling of abandonment when I woke up to the arduous journey home, I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down like rain. "Why don't you want me anymore, Dad?" I cried, sobbing uncontrollably, tears and snot mixing together. Chin Ming clenched his fist, turning his face away. "I can't raise you. With me, there's only steamed buns and trash. What's good about being the daughter of a hooligan?" I cried and hugged his leg tightly. "But I only need you, Dad." Chin Ming was silent. After a very long time, he looked up at the sky and sighed, then suddenly picked me up. "All right, don't cry anymore." I wrapped my arms tightly around his neck, refusing to let go. Chin Ming had no choice but to carry me inside. "Tell me, how did you get back?" I choked for a moment, then whispered, "I walked back." Only then did Chin Ming look down at my feet. Because the dogs chased me, I had lost my slippers. My feet were covered in red, swollen gravel cuts, my heels scratched, and the trails of dried blood. He frowned with worry, quickly taking me to wash my feet. He took the last bandage in the house and put it on me, then carefully checked my entire body for any other injuries. "Does anything else hurt, or are you injured anywhere else?" I shook my head and nestled into his neck, acting spoiled. This time, Chin Ming completely surrendered. He changed me into new clothes, and even skillfully braided my hair into a beautiful pigtail. After each of us ate a steamed bun, Chin Ming carried me outside. "We're going to Auntie Liu's house to apologize. You suddenly leaving like that must have worried everyone a lot." I nodded obediently. Chin Ming borrowed a bicycle and rode me back to Auntie Liu's house. As expected, the family of 3 were all looking sad inside. As soon as they saw Chin Ming bringing me back, they all understood everything. Chin Ming sincerely bowed to the family. "I'm sorry, Auntie Liu, for causing you worry. This child can't be without me, so I will continue to take care of her. If it's not too much trouble, I'll bring her to visit you often in the future." He rubbed my head and told me, "Quickly apologize to Uncle, Auntie, and your brother." I lowered my head and Kiki said, "I'm sorry." Fortunately, Auntie Liu was very kind-hearted. She picked me up, gently teasing, "Our good girl has to leave again, what a shame. All right then, consider me your godmother. This place will always be your home. If you ever quarrel with your dad, come back here to your godmother." I seriously corrected her. "Dad is my real dad?" Chin Ming looked embarrassed, while Auntie Liu's entire family burst out laughing. That day, Auntie Liu thoughtfully prepared a lavish feast. Chin Ming and I ate several bowls each. Before we left, Auntie also brought out several sets of clothes and dresses she had already bought for me. Alongside them were 2 bags of fresh vegetables and meat, a sack of rice, and a canister of cooking oil. Chin Ming firmly refused. Auntie Liu smiled kindly. "You're still a growing child, son. We're not short on these things. Please take them home so the little one can eat her fill. Don't let her go hungry." Chin Ming looked at me, his face flushing, and hesitantly accepted. When we got home, as he took the vegetables out of the bag, Chin Ming discovered an envelope at the bottom. He opened it to find $500 in cash. 2 years later, Chin Ming indeed welcomed the first significant turning point in his life. A technological product he personally designed and created caught the attention of a prominent figure in the industry. This person immediately provided substantial funding, wholeheartedly supporting him in his creative endeavors. Chin Ming moved me out of our old, dilapidated house, and we moved into a villa we had never dared to dream of before. As soon as he had money, the first thing he did was buy me a brand new outfit from head to toe, then took me to enjoy Western cuisine. Although one of us wasn't even tall enough to reach the tabletop, and the other awkwardly struggled with using a fork correctly, when our eyes met, both of us saw boundless happiness in the other's gaze. Having money truly was wonderful. Auntie Liu had always quietly helped us throughout this time. So, with his first earnings, Chin Ming bought all sorts of the best tonics as gifts for Auntie Liu's entire family and also gave them a large sum of money. I received a new name, taking his surname, Chin Kiki. It had no special meaning. Chin Ming simply said he only wished for me to always be happy, and that was enough. Now he had changed to black hair. I sat in his arms, enjoying a sweet strawberry cake. Dad, why did you dye your hair blonde before? You look just like those shady people on the street. Chin Ming was silent for a moment, then sighed and said, if I didn't tone down my appearance a bit, how much trouble do you think your incredibly handsome dad would get into? I glanced at him, secretly admitting to myself he's right. Chin Ming was indeed very handsome. Before, with his bright blonde hair and a huge chain, he looked like a roughneck. Outsiders would just think he was a thug, not paying much attention. Now, with black hair, wearing a proper shirt and suit, he perfectly matched the description in the story. All right, it's all because my dad is too handsome. Chin Ming chuckled at my teasing, giving my cheek a playfully painful pinch. The following year, when I turned 6, Chin Ming started looking for a kindergarten for me. That same year, he conceived the idea of helping poor students. Time had made him increasingly calm. Aside from the times he played and joked with me, he was very much like a true tech mogul. That day, after school, Chin Ming was waiting at the gate. We're not going home today, we're going to Auntie Liu's place. I obediently got into the car. Only when we arrived did I realize that ever since he harbored the idea of helping underprivileged students, Chin Ming had been searching for a reliable method of support. Auntie Liu's husband, a middle school teacher, had shared with Chin Ming that there were 2 extremely unfortunate female students in his class. Both were girls from the mountains, from impoverished families with critically ill mothers and disabled fathers. Auntie Liu and Uncle Liu often invited them home for meals to improve their diet. This trip to Auntie Liu's house was to meet and understand the circumstances of these 2 students more deeply. I nervously stepped inside. One girl, wearing old clothes, was helping Auntie Liu clean with a radiant smile on her face. Her name was Hannah. The other girl, though somewhat thin and never quite full, maintained a dignified demeanor, striving to preserve her last shred of self-respect. Almost immediately, I recognized her as the female lead of the story, Lillian. Compared to others, she possessed a striking beauty. She carried an aloof aura, like a white lotus blooming from the mud unstained, struggling to survive in an unjust world. In the original novel, there was no Auntie Liu character. The person who proposed sponsoring Lillian was an employee in Chin Ming's company. It was the first time he used his abilities to help others, and he personally took charge. It was precisely because of this that Lillian in the story misunderstood him. At this moment, I tightened my grip on Chin Ming's hand slightly. It seemed this situation couldn't be avoided after all, but this time, I was determined not to let Chin Ming repeat his past mistakes. During dinner today, Uncle Liu didn't mention sponsorship to the 2 girls. At the table, Chin Ming was peeling shrimp for me. His hands were slender, his knuckles distinct and beautiful. I noticed Lillian subtly glancing, trying to appear nonchalant. Her eyes skimmed from his hands to the watch on his wrist, then upwards, finally resting on Chin Ming's face. I clearly saw a fleeting glint of surprise in her eyes. I bowed my head, put a piece of shrimp into my mouth, then turned to Chin Ming. I want 3 more, Dad. Chin Ming chuckled lovingly. Before his hand could even move, 2 peeled shrimp appeared in my bowl. Hannah smiled at me. Seeing how much you like to eat, I've already peeled 2 for you. She narrowed her eyes slightly, tilting her head, and whispered, How old are you? 6. I'm telling you honestly, you're the cutest little kid I've ever seen. I grinned broadly, happily accepting her compliment. Just then, Lillian suddenly spoke up. At 6 years old, shouldn't you know how to peel your own shrimp? She said, feigning maturity. When I was your age, I already knew how to do so many things and even helped support my family. Look, because he's peeling shrimp for you, he hasn't even had a hot bite of his own meal. As she spoke, she took a sip of water, then turned to Chin Ming with a gaze full of concern. Unexpectedly, she was met with his icy stare. She's my daughter. It's only natural for me to take care of her. If you've never been treated well by anyone, don't use that as an excuse to strip others of their right to be loved. What? She's your daughter? Lillian gasped in shock, her voice completely losing its composure. I chewed my shrimp, secretly thinking she was probably calculating whether she should become my stepmother at that moment. Auntie Liu and Uncle Liu looked at her with little favor. The image of a strong, independent woman they had always held of her turned out to be nothing more than a shallow farce. this dinner no longer held any meaning. Chin Ming would certainly not invest in her. Frankly, if she weren't a character in a story, with that personality, she wouldn't deserve to be the female lead of any tale. After that day, Chin Ming made his first investment in Hannah. When she learned she no longer had to worry about making a living until she finished high school, Hannah cried uncontrollably. Afterwards, she used the money she saved from her part-time jobs to buy a lot of shrimp for me and sincerely bowed to thank Chin Ming. However, I knew Lillian wouldn't give up easily. Sure enough, one day after school, Lillian, wearing a pristine white dress, waited for me in front of the kindergarten gate. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and as soon as she spoke, her voice was pitiful. "I'm so sorry, Miss Chin. That day I didn't realize it was Mr. Chin's test. I truly regret it. I'm so very sorry. Please, could you speak to your father for me? I desperately need that sponsorship. As long as he helps me, I'm willing to do anything for him." As she said this, her cheeks flushed, showing a hint of shyness. I looked at her with cold eyes. Did she think I didn't understand the implication of her words? How ridiculous. I was still thinking of a delicate way to refuse when an unexpectedly icy voice rang out from behind. "Not only is Student Fang shameless, but she also wants to corrupt my daughter." When did Chin Ming appear? He scooped me into his arms, his face utterly cold as he stared at Lillian. Lillian's eyes lit up and she quickly approached. "Mr. Chin, what happened that day was actually just a misunderstanding. I've already apologized to Miss Chin. Could you reconsider granting another sponsorship? I truly need that money." Chin Ming tilted his head slightly. "What do you plan to use that money for?" Lillian raised her hand, ticking off points. "To buy better medicine for my mother, buy school supplies for my younger brother." Her eyes became sorrowful. "You've never experienced poverty, so you don't understand how tight money can make even a hero struggle. I'm about to take my university entrance exams. This is the most important school year. I truly hope you can help." Lillian spoke with extreme sincerity. Chin Ming and I exchanged glances, silently chuckling. We had lived for 2 years in that dilapidated house. When we were hungriest, we each only had one steamed bun to eat. In summer, every inch of us was swollen with bug bites, sweat pouring so much we couldn't close our eyes. In winter, we lacked warm blankets and the biting wind chilled us to the bone. We had to hug each other to keep warm. And yet, she claimed we had never experienced poverty. What a joke. It was precisely asterisk because Chin Ming had once been poor that when he gained wealth, the first thing he thought of was helping those who were genuinely struggling. Chin Ming sighed, still politely refusing. Lillian lost all face and self-respect, her eyes red with anger, and she cursed him as a hypocrite. I reached up and covered Chin Ming's ears, smiling radiantly at him. "Don't mind her, Dad. Everything you do is right." After that incident, Chin Ming hired several bodyguards to escort me to and from school, and also sent people to monitor Lillian's every move. Because poverty isn't scary, what's scary is a poor, envious soul. Surprisingly, after an investigation, an interesting truth was uncovered. As soon as Lillian learned about the possibility of sponsorship, she immediately began her hunt for a target. Very quickly, she zeroed in on a middle-aged businesswoman, famous for her charitable heart, who came to the school to give a lecture. Lillian approached her, crying and lamenting her poverty, while not forgetting to show off her good grades. Unexpectedly, this act moved the woman, who decided to sponsor her with a considerable sum of money. Initially, Lillian used the money properly. She bought a new school bag for her younger brother, medicine for her mother, and even a bowl of meat with rice for her father, who had once had his leg broken due to gambling. However, when she realized there was still a significant amount of money left, Lillian began to harbor dark intentions. To legitimize her accounting, she transferred money to her roommate, claiming her friend's family needed urgent funds. In the blink of an eye, she owned a branded handbag and expensive cosmetics. She realized this trick worked, so she began spending lavishly, frequently visiting luxurious restaurants. When Chin Ming learned of this information, he didn't say much. He simply and quietly sent the information directly to the sponsor. That experienced woman understood everything with just a glance. After a moment of disappointment, she immediately recalled all the remaining funds and used this incident as a cautionary tale before the entire school. Lillian lost all face and eventually voluntarily withdrew from school. The next time I heard about Lillian was from Auntie Liu. "Do you remember that pretty girl Lillian from before? After she was expelled, I don't know which rich young master she befriended, but she keeps trailing after him." The students at Uncle Liu's school are all gossiping about it. At that moment, I was eating ice cream, biting into a crispy, sweet wafer. Chin Ming, with his sleeves rolled up, was helping Auntie Liu shell beans, just listening and shaking his head with a smile. But in my mind, another thought surfaced. That young master could very well be the male lead from the story. Even though many outcomes in this world had changed, I still dared not be careless. On the way home, I couldn't help but remind Chin Ming, "Dad, your company must have a lot of important secrets, right? If so, you need to be careful of the people around you, lest you be harmed." In the story, the person who harmed Chin Ming was only briefly mentioned. At that moment, besides giving a warning, I truly didn't know what else to do. Chin Ming gently pinched my cheek, smiled, and nodded in agreement. Surprisingly, my words stayed with him. He immediately ordered a thorough investigation of all employees. And indeed, a traitor was discovered. It was his highly paid personal assistant. Taking advantage of Chin Ming's absences, he frequently searched through the office trash, where discarded product sketches were often found. He made superficial edits and then sold them off at high prices. This tactic was very discreet, causing almost no immediate impact on Chin Ming at the time. But just as water dripping can wear away stone, if small issues aren't stopped, they will eventually lead to serious consequences. After dealing with the traitor, Chin Ming completely reformed the company's internal system and installed surveillance cameras throughout the office. When he recounted this to me, he hugged me proudly and praised, "My daughter truly is a little genius who brings Dad good luck." I was so thrilled I felt dizzy with happiness. On the way home, as the blue sky suddenly turned gloomy, dark clouds gathered and rain began to fall. Chin Ming said we'd have hot pot tonight to warm our bellies. I swallowed, filled with anticipation. As the car passed an outdoor parking lot, I saw a girl in a white dress dancing beside a car. The heavy rain soaked through her clothes, revealing the curves of her body. After she finished dancing, someone inside the car threw out a wad of cash. The girl kicked the money away, then leaned in, poking her head into the car. Immediately, she was pulled inside through the window by the person within. Soon after, the car began to rock violently. Chin Ming immediately covered my eyes, his voice filled with warning. "You must remember this, Chin Kiki. People like that have problems in their heads. If you ever dare to act like that later, I will spank you senseless." I tried hard to suppress my laughter, nodding obediently. The fact that he threatened a spanking showed just how disgusted he was. Normally, no matter how mischievous I was, he always loved and spoiled me unconditionally. I leaned against his chest, feeling incredibly safe, hoping to grow up in his embrace like this. My father raised me, and I will care for him in his old age. If there truly are gods above, I pray that in my next life, I may be his daughter once more.